Hello, hello. Welcome to Jane Ambassador Office Hours number 10, Leading Your Team, How to Inspire Growth and Vision in Your Practice, where we dive deep into practical insights that help you elevate your practice, inspire growth within your team. I'm your host, David Bruton Jr., PT physical therapist, and today we have an exciting episode. If you have enjoyed the last 3 months, you have definitely want to be here and tune in. Together, we're going to dive deeper into key strategies that drive success. And today, in our discussion, is all about how to lead our team effectively and efficiently. Today, I'm joined by our great guest, Jeff Moore, PT. Jeff is the founder of the Institute of Clinical Experience, which he started in 2012 with the mission to elevate physical therapy education and clinical practice. He's dedicated his career to improving the way we practice and how we grow as leaders in our field. So, grab your headphones, settle in, and let's get started on this conversation about leadership, growth, and vision. Jeff, thank you so very much for joining us.
Yeah, what's up, David? Glad to be here, man. Thanks for having
Yes,
me.
sir. No problem, man. No problem. I'm excited. We're both here in Colorado. We're both PTs. I haven't had a chance to talk to another PT, so I feel like we can get real raw and dirty as far as the profession sometimes.
I'm ready to dig in, man.
Yeah, yeah. So like I mentioned earlier in the introduction, today is about leading your team. And from my personal experience, I've been very fortunate to be a captain at Notre Dame, a captain for the Denver Broncos for 3 years, and I've learned firsthand how to how to be a powerful and strong leadership, both on and off the field. Whether that is by doing, whether that is by showing, whether that's being the rah rah guy. Now, I'm not necessarily a rah rah guy, but every now and then, you get fueled up, you get pumped, you get amped, you get fired up. But I think there's a balance when it comes to leadership. There's a balance of empathy. There's a balance of listening. There's a balance of vision. Jeff, can you share a little bit about your personal experience thus far throughout your career? I know we talked about backstage when you graduated, so you got a little bit more experience in this profession than me, but how you've kind of evolved as a leader thus far.
Yeah, I won't share those exact years here as we jump into it, but it's been a fair amount of them. So I was a full-time physical therapist for, 10, 12 years. And during that time, started creating the Institute of Clinical Excellence, ICE Physio, that is, Con Ed. It was small for a while, it was us teaching
Mhm.
a few spinal manipulation courses and a few other things. And then it really blossomed like 2017, 18, 19. And as ICE grew and we got more people caught up in kind of this fitness forward idea and this and not or approach to manual therapy and exercise. As it grew, we found a lot of people loved the content, but didn't have anywhere to practice it, meaning that their clinic didn't have squat racks, kettlebells, no ergs, right? No echo bike, nowhere to push people in the way that we were advocating that people of all ages and stages should be pushed. And so in 2019, we started a clinic group called Onward Physical Therapy. So I'm a managing partner of Onward. We opened it up in Charlotte. And then we just started taking really high performing people and giving them a fitness forward clinic home. And now I think we've got 42 clinics around the country, in all the major metropolitan areas. And man, just trying to kind of rebrand the profession into one that's a little bit more assertive from a fitness perspective and,
Yeah.
more direct access oriented. And I think leveling up in a way we've always wanted to.
Yeah, absolutely. You bring such a powerful insight there, like manual therapy plus exercise, and not just the banded exercise. Me personally, I'm not a huge band guy. I hate it. Like it's cool at the beginning, but let's throw some weight. Let's tap into Wolf's law, Davis law. Let's see some neurophysiological changes in that muscle, right?
Yeah.
But as far as like you were a pioneer with ICE, you're a pioneer with Onward. You're bringing in this whole new concept of like just everybody get a squat rack, put some load on you. This is how you're going to get better. This is how we're going to see physical change. This is how you're going to perform better. That's leadership. And I guess to you, what does leadership? How would you define leadership, and how would you define it more so in your respective practice?
I mean, for a really simple definition, I think leadership is constantly clarifying your vision. Like, there's a lot of components to this, right? Like, you can get into the
Absolutely.
mechanics of doing it, but like at its rawest level, it is consistently clarifying, understanding your own vision, and then helping everybody around you get it, appreciate it, understand it, and then know what their role is in executing it. But it's that, David. It's communicating what you're trying to do in
Hmm.
constantly kind of reinstituting the stoke around that mission. I mean, I think at its barest level, that's what it is.
Absolutely, absolutely, and like, and being willing to and comfortable sharing your vision on repeat, right? Because sometimes you feel like telepathically they should understand. Like,
For
I said it
sure.
once, you should always remember this is our goal. This is what leadership is. This is what we're trying to do with our respective clinic here between the lines, or an onward or an ice, right?
Yep.
But you have to constantly remind them, and you have to make sure you're clear with your vision. And like you said, there's a lot that goes into it. A lot from, what's the team culture, what's the personalities like, how do you delegate? Like, I feel like there's just so many things with leadership. And I know I'm like super type A, and I'm a Leo. It's like I gotta control everything, but it's
Yeah.
like that's exhausting too. That's
Oh
exhausting
man,
too.
man. And
So
I love that you said that, David, because people, leaders, especially young leaders, always feel like they're over communicating, and that's literally never the case, right? Like I always
yeah,
tell
yeah,
people, if you think you've made your mission clear to your team, all you got to do is double it 3 times. Like
yep, yep.
you're not telling them often enough. You're not clarifying it enough. So I love that you bring that up. Like being willing to continually re-express what you're trying to do and not feel like you're saying it too many times, because it's almost always that you're not saying it commonly enough.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. And just to that point, it's like, right, it's like you're not beating them down like with negative stuff. Like, this is, I'm trying to help us grow. Like, you grow, understanding our vision. Like, my vision is not just for myself; it's for us as a team, as us collectively. And I think, sometimes people lose sight of that. People lose
Oh
sight.
man.
Like, there's that power asymmetry that's associated with the leader, the boss, the manager, the clinic manager, and the employee, right? There's always that power asymmetry, but like, you're trying to mitigate that and just trying to over communicate that we are on the same page. And if you eat, I tell my employees, you eat, I eat, we eat, like, right? Like,
Yeah. Yeah.
so,
That, man, you're right about, like, if you really feel like you're, oppressing your employees by reinstituting your mission and re-engaging it and repeating it, I would challenge you to make sure that your mission is full of purpose, because they shouldn't feel that way. Every time you bring it back up, it should be inspiring. Oh yeah, that's why we do what we do, right? It's bigger
mhm,
than, like
mhm.
dude, nobody gets tired of feeling like they're a part of something special. Nobody.
Absolutely, absolutely, absolutely. We all love that pat on the back, that
Yeah.
show. Like, it's hard to, think about studying for the boards, right? It's like it's hard to study what I don't know. It's like, I feel like crap about it. I'm gonna study the good stuff, the stuff that I know well,
That's
right?
it.
So yeah, yeah. So as a practice owner, what are some of the biggest challenges that you faced when it comes to leading the team?
Ooh, I think practice or otherwise, I mean, anywhere, I think the biggest challenge for me historically has always been the same, and that is cultivating an individual ecosystem for each person, right? It's got to be individualized, that balances growth and sustainability.
Hmm.
Like, meaning them growing at a pace they want to, right? Getting to an income level they're comfortable with, but doing that in a way that they can do for 20 years, not two. And
Yeah,
that's a tough balance, like helping understand, you really got to communicate with them well, like what are your goals, but also what is your bandwidth and what are your other priorities. So like
absolutely.
creating that balance between getting them career success, but also doing it in a way that they can actually stay with it for a long time. That is not easy, and it's
Yeah.
individualized. So I would say that's probably the biggest challenge.
Y'all heard it here. Y'all heard it here. Individualized treatment's not just for the patient, right?
That's
It's
it.
not just for the patient. It's for your employees, for your support staff. Make sure you treat them all differently, because we all have different backgrounds, right? It's like,
Mm,
heck, just in PT school, I'm going into PT school, 4 kids, right? It's like I'm
yeah.
managing 4 kids and school versus somebody who's just gone straight through school, right? There. It's like different strokes for different folks, and like how I study, how I manage, how I balance my time, or how a professor approaches me is going to dictate how successful I am versus how they approach the traditional student in that sense. Um, how do you overcome some of those challenges? Like, how do you have a
Yeah.
monthly meeting? Do you have a weekly meeting? How do you overcome? Do you have set times, with individual employees, and then you have a group meeting? Like, how do you
Mm.
navigate that space?
I love that you went right to like how frequent are the meetings, because that is the answer, right? Like
Hmm.
communication. And I would even back it up one more step, like for all the leaders, thinking about either getting into the space or just starting to build something, you can never go back and communicate the beginning again. So overdo it at the beginning. Because, like, the better you understand someone's goals, I have some folks that come in to an organization and they'll tell me flat out, look, I am going to spend the next 5 or 10 years. I want to get myself economically viable and stable. That's my number one priority. I don't have a family. I don't have, this is what okay, that's a very different scenario than when someone comes in and says, look, I'm pumped about this, but these other roles in my church, in my family, in my community, I need to be balancing all this stuff. And I never want this to my whole point of this is that early communication where you
Hmm.
really understand as I manage this person and guide this person, what am I balancing for them and what can we not forget about? Early communication, tripling down on it and then maintaining it. But if you get it
Yeah.
right at the beginning, you only need monthly touch points every 6 weeks versus, man, if you don't get that beginning part right and you're not understanding where they're trying to go, all the future communication in the world can never erase that. So I think
Hmm.
thinking about that early communication is really important.
And I love the fact that you mentioned that very first meeting. And that first meeting, if everybody's actually paying attention to what you just said, Jeff, it's you're listening to what their respective goals are. It's not you telling
Yeah.
them what your vision in isolation. Like we need to hit these numbers here, there. No, it's like, okay, what are your
Dude.
what are your goals? What are your like you're being empathetic and listening and taking it all in. It's like, okay, does this fit? Can we make this work?
Yeah.
All right. And then it's like, okay, that's added pressure that you're putting on them. That's added pressure that you're taking off of yourself as well. Cause you're not, okay, I don't have to like hammer on them and meet constantly. It's like, okay, I have an understanding of where they're at.
That's right. In crew, for those of you that just heard that, you got to really reflect on that's the transition to actual leadership. You
Mhm.
got to stop just thinking about growing the company or the product. You're now guiding and taking care of human beings that are multifaceted. So when you're listening to them, you're listening so intently because it's not just about what they can bring to the company. It's about you now have a responsibility to make this person's life work better, to make this
Yep,
person's life more satisfying. And if you're not listening to all of that, you're not leading, you're just a boss, right? If
yep,
you're actually going to lead, you need to understand what that person needs out of you in their entirety.
absolutely. Absolutely. That's strong and understanding that's how you build that strong team culture. And that's a key point of managing these different personalities and their different needs. Right. It's like I just reflect back at my time in the league and guys have a lot of different personalities in the league, to say the least, and having to manage that and get everybody on the same page there and motivate. And obviously, there's different motivation there. It's like, but at the end of the day, it's always money. Money's a big
Sure.
driving force in every profession. But it's like, how do you get them to study a little bit more? How do you help them, work on their craft? How do you grow them? Because again, that's if they're successful, the team's going to be successful. And
Yeah.
it's the same thing. Boy, we had some personalities. We did have
I
some
have no doubt.
personalities.
Dude, that must have
For
been
sure.
crazy because not only are they personalities, but they're such high performers. So I mean, they're
Hmm.
big personalities, you know?
Yeah, 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 yeah. A lot of fun, a lot of learning,
I'm
a lot of
sure.
learning. How you talk to Akib at the time, not how you talk to Kayvon or Omar. Like
Yep.
it's just different personalities for sure. Um, okay, so leaders are leaders come from a lot of years of experience, and then they are catapulted into this new leadership role, whether it's by choice, open up their own clinic, or they become the clinic manager or something, or they just come out of school and they become a leader. What are some strategies that you would recommend for a new leader?
Man, early on, really focus. And this kind of goes back to what we just said, but only because it's so damn important, kind of back to getting the start right.
Mm-hmm.
But really think about the hiring process.
Mm-hmm.
David, this always sounds a little bit pessimistic. I don't mean it to be that way, but I do have to share this. Adults are 10% modifiable. I wish they were more than 10%. I really do. But you're encountering people who are in their 20s and 30s, they're professionals. They're a lot about who they are and how they work. A lot of it, maybe set in stone isn't fair, but a lot of who they are is who they are. There
Mhm,
is 10% you can modify, right? There
mhm,
is, and your culture will do that, and your systems will do that. But get that 90% right. And what I mean
mhm.
by that is you got to hire the right people. And the only way
Yeah,
that happens is if you're thinking about hiring way before you need to. So if you're
yeah.
new in leadership, you're probably thinking to yourself, I'm going to grow this a bit and then I'm going to hire. And that's
Mhm,
fine. But you need to be thinking about who's going to want to work with you and why. Where is
mhm,
your brand flowering that those people are going to throw a hand up and be like, hey, dude, can I jump on board? How are you going to get a bunch of people that want to work for you? Because if you get a
mhm.
big pipeline, you can have a really fine filter. And now you can filter out all the people that don't make sense for your organization. And now you get the 90% right. So, one of my
Mhm.
biggest recommendations for new leaders is begin thinking about your hiring ecosystem way before you need to hire. And when you
Yeah,
go to pull the trigger, take your time and get the 90% right.
nice, nice. Yeah, that 90%, 10% modifiable. Dang, dang.
Dude,
Yeah,
David,
right.
I want it to be
Yes,
higher. I swear I do. But you
right.
know, I think people they lean so heavily on their culture, thinking their
Mhm,
culture is going to change people. That's not
mhm,
really how it works. Your culture is great because people that fit it tend to identify with it and they want to come on
mhm.
board, and that makes it even
Yeah,
stronger. And there are things you do that do strengthen it, but
yeah,
nothing as much as bringing in the right people whose principles are
yeah,
already in the right place. I mean,
yeah.
those are the big rocks.
Yeah, yeah, for sure, for sure. No, that makes perfect sense. And I wish I would have thought about that early on as well. It's like who's the right person to hire, and make sure they're a fit and we're a fit together, and you know that that 90%. I never thought about that in that sense, but yeah, that makes perfect sense. Makes perfect sense. But in that same breath, like I'm thinking, man, if somebody's 90% like me coming into the clinic, right? It's like because it's like I'm the culture that I built here in the clinic. Like if they're
Yeah, yeah.
90% like me, that's a lot. That's a lot of personality going on right there. So I'm just thinking, okay,
Dude,
could I manage another me? I don't know. I think me and me would be fighting quite a bit.
and David, I think that brings up a great point, right? Of like, you know where you're trying to go as an organization, and you
Hmm.
probably crush the you part. Whatever
Hmm.
part you bring, you probably got that in spades. So usually I'm thinking about, can I hire my opposite from a skill perspective, in a
Yeah.
personality perspective? Same principles, same
Yeah.
agreeing on the mission. But
Hmm.
man, once you start hiring, I'm always thinking about who can do really well what I don't do very well. And
Yeah.
I'm hiring my weaknesses all day, man, because I
Yeah.
mean
Yeah.
that's how you build that well-rounded
Hmm.
team, right?
Hmm. Yeah. Ooh, God, that's some self-reflection right there. It's like,
Yeah.
ooh, what don't I do well, right? Because you always think it's like, damn, I do everything well. I'm pretty dope. But it's like, oh no, I suck at that. Like, right? So it's like you have
Yeah,
to do some self-reflection there.
you're right, man. Like, are you hyper organized? Are you a good promoter? Are you good at inspiring people? Like, we all have areas where when we self reflect, we're like, ooh, yeah, that's always been a bit of a sticky spot for me. Like, when you
Hmm.
identify those under self, like you said, self reflection, man, that is your next hire needs to show up with that overflowing their cup.
Yeah, yeah. No, that's solid right there. Now with this new leadership, people jumping into that new leader role, imposter syndrome. It came up in the last conversation before. I've heard it throughout school. Like during one of my clinical rotations, I felt like I was an imposter. Like I don't know jack shit, and like why is this person's leg in my hand? Right? It's like so.
Yeah, yeah.
So how do you handle how do you suggest somebody handle imposter syndrome when they're met with it?
Absolutely. And you're going to be right. Like, I mean, it's
Mhm,
inevitable. If you're, unless you're really arrogant, if you have
mhm,
some sort of humble self reflection, you're going to have that feeling nagging you at
mhm, mhm,
various points in your career. I think the biggest thing is to accept it. Stop trying to fight it. We all go through it. It's a reality of every single stare on the case, right? So it's going
mhm,
to be
mhm,
there. What you got to
mhm.
focus on is the fact that it's modifiable,
Yeah.
meaning that imposter syndrome's often there for good reasons. You're new. You don't have a lot of reps. You don't have a lot of wins and losses. You don't have a lot of
Mhm.
depth in the space, but it's
Mhm.
modifiable. Every
Mhm.
day that you actually get better, are willing to face the facts, are willing to seek out help, have hard conversations, every day you get 2 or 3% better, you have 2 or 3% less imposter syndrome. It's
Mhm.
modifiable. So accept the fact it's going to be there, but then decide that you're going to do the actual work to become the
Mhm.
best leader. You're going to be transparent, you're going to be open, you're going to have hard conversations, you're going to look out to other leaders, you're going to learn. In every single month, it's going
Mhm.
to be less of an influence on your life. So
Yeah.
accept it and then begin to modify it. And as you're
Yeah.
modifying it, you're going to feel yourself slaying the dragon.
Yeah. Yeah. Now, you keep mentioning modifiable, modifiable. Was that something that you created yourself? Did you look to a podcast or a book or something like that? Did you find, or did you hear that from another leader, say a TED Talk or something like that?
Oh, it's a good question. I think a lot of it's like that extreme ownership kind of Jocko Willink vibe, right? Of like,
Mhm.
I always want to think about putting myself in spots, or when I find myself in spots, why think about the things that aren't modifiable? Like,
Mhm.
hey, what can I do about this? Right? You're
Yeah.
gonna bump into imposter syndrome. Of course
Mhm.
you are. You haven't done this
Yeah.
job yet. How could you
Yeah.
not?
Yeah.
It's gonna be there. That's not modifiable. What is?
Mhm.
How fast I get rid of it. Right? How
Yeah.
fast I get
Yeah.
good and get rid of it. So I think just going back to that extreme ownership of in any given scenario, what can I do to change what I don't like about it? I think I'm obsessed with that, David.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. No, I love that. I know for me, like I read a couple of Simon Sinek books, and I follow him on LinkedIn, so I catch a couple tidbits every now and then that he offers. And at the end of the day, what it's boiled down to is like I feel like it's more of a leadership's more of a reflection of yourself, right? It's
Mhm.
more of like, are you willing to be a professional and give yourself the hard criticism and learn and grow. And if you're not willing to learn and grow, like how's anything you put out there going to flourish? How's any seed you plant going to grow? Right? If you're not willing to water yourself. So
Oh man.
man.
Man, absolutely. And to bring Simon Sinek into this conversation, if any, one of the biggest challenges a lot of people, especially in my experience, PT, but I'm sure in all of the other disciplines where healthcare providers and business folks are high performing, these people are very type A. They love
Mhm.
they love to finish things, check it off, get an A, right? They love this stuff.
Yep.
Simon Sinek's book, The Infinite Game, if you haven't read it as a young leader, it is such a needed piece of literature because I love what Simon Sinek says when he puts the point out there, you can't win business. There's no day you woke up and you won business. It goes on forever. And I think just accepting that, it's an infinite game. There's no
Yeah.
end point. If you can begin to wrap your mind around that, some of the
Mhm.
imposter syndrome and some of the type A things begin to settle because you're like, there's no there's
Yeah,
it,
yeah,
that's
there's
it,
no
right?
input. Yeah,
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 exactly.
yeah.
So I if anybody hasn't read that, The Infinite Game, it's one, I think, one of Simon Sinek's best books, but I love that conversation.
Yeah, no, that's a great point because we talked about this maybe a couple months ago. We talked about goal setting,
Mhm.
maybe at the beginning of your goal setting, and even if you hit your goal, that's not the end of the business game, right?
Ah,
Like now your goal is just going to grow. Like,
yep.
oh, I hit this number, cool, I'm gonna go here. Okay, I've had this many patients, I want to go here, right? It's like it's
Yes.
never ending. But God, like a lot of us, especially PTs, we all played sports.
Yep.
There's a winner and a loser. Like to hit that switch is like
Oh,
I can't win, but I
yep.
can't lose. Like
Yeah. D-
I'm way
you
too
know,
competitive for that nonsense. I'm way too competitive.
but I tell you, you really stop worrying about the destination once you realize there isn't one, right? Like
Mhm.
it's classic wisdom, hey, it's about the journey, not the destination. That's a
Mhm.
classic kind of tale, but it's so true. Like if
Yeah.
there isn't a destination, if there's no stopping point, then you really just have to embrace it's about how well do I execute today? How well do I
Yeah.
execute this moment? And I think that does
Mhm.
quell a lot of insecurities and anxieties for folks.
Yeah. 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 So everybody, just get on your Forrest Gump. Just start running. You just know there's
That's
no
it.
finish line. You get to one point, just turn back around. Come on back.
That's all it is.
That's all it is. That's crazy. Oh man, but that's so powerful. And yeah, I have to recheck out that book and reread it. Yeah. Yeah. Um, how accountability and approachability. I love these two. these two bullet points. What's the difference to you? Accountability and approachability, and how do you tie those into your practice?
Accountability, and this goes, it was so refreshing, David, what you said a minute ago when you just admitted a lot of it's about the money. There's nothing wrong with saying that. There's nothing wrong
Mhm.
with acknowledging that you're trying to make a living, right?
Yep.
And so put that forefront. Stop dodging around that topic as a leader and just talk about it, right? How much are you looking to make? What are you willing to do? Do these things make sense? Be willing to talk about that piece of the puzzle, because
Mhm.
at the end of the day, a lot of it's about the money. And
Yep.
what I have always set up, and everyone's got a different style here, I'm a big eat what you kill person. So,
Mhm.
meaning that at Onward, for example, we pay everybody 50% of every session. So if you're charging $200 a session and you're the PT as an employee providing that session, we pay you $100, right? And
Mhm.
so I bring that up because the accountability is built into the process. If
Yep. Yep.
you're not going to make good money if you don't get the job done. If these folks don't want
Yep.
to come back, if they don't want to tell their buddies, you're literally
Mhm.
your ability to provide for you and yours is resting on your
Mhm.
performance. So that's all the
Yep.
accountability I've ever needed. So we
Yep.
set it up that way because if you don't deliver, you don't eat.
Yeah. Yeah. Absolutely. And that's the cash based model I have here too. It's like,
Yeah,
okay, you get your 50% here. Evals give you 60%.
nice.
And you get a quarterly bonus, right?
Love that.
If you get this many packages sold or whatever, you get a bonus. Kind of build that in. A little motivation too,
Oh
right?
yeah.
Right. You got to have that built in motivation. It might not be intrinsic. People might not have that intrinsic switch. Like for me, it's
Yep.
like I want to be successful. Failure is not an option. Like it's go 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 for me, right? That's just been driven into my head since I started playing football.
Yep.
But some people it might not be that case, so they might need some extrinsic motivating factors. Again, goes back to the beginning. What is your why, and
That's it.
what is your why? Yep.
That's it.
Tell me
If
what
you
your why is.
if you can go back because you had that conversation, you know what fuels that person. That's it.
Mhm.
So that's a lot of the accountability is look, their performance dictates their pay. So it's like,
Mhm.
that really crushes the accountability box because few people need more than that to have
Mhm.
that motivation. As far as approachability, the
Mhm.
biggest thing I've found is make sure that when people do bring something to you, you do something about it.
Yeah.
If you, you're what you say means very little, what you do means a lot, right? And so
Mhm.
when a team
Mhm.
member brings something to you, whether it's a concern or an opportunity, whatever it might be, act on it and
Mhm.
show the group you're acting on it. Because what that's going to do, more so than saying, hey, I've got an open door policy, blah, blah, blah. I mean, okay, those are kind of classic corporate taglines. But what really shows the team that you're approachable is when someone does bring something to you and it makes a difference. You change your
Mhm.
behavior, you launch the product, you modify the thing they were concerned about. Now all of a sudden
Mhm.
everyone's like, oh wow, if you actually bring someone to something to that person, they will actually do something about it. Nothing is going to
Mhm.
make you more approachable than actually doing something with the information someone does choose to bring to you. And everyone right there, when you model that behavior, that takes care of
Mhm.
the approachability. I think way more so than just claiming that people are welcome to come see you or whatever. Just do something about it when they do come see you.
Absolutely, absolutely, yeah, yeah, for sure. And I forget where I've heard something like this. I mean, my dad has great sayings, but I can't give my dad credit on this one. I believe somebody said something. Accountability ensures results, and approachability fosters a collaborative atmosphere. And I
Ooh,
believe maybe it was at a BNI meeting or something that I did some odd years ago. But it kind of was like, oh, I saw accountability. It's like, okay, that is crazy. Like
mm,
I do remember that. Is
good.
it in the front of my head half the time? No. Like I'm over here, it's like I gotta eat what I kill, right? No, but but yeah, like you have to be approachable. And it's like how like because we all as leaders we still deal with home stuff or societal stuff or political stuff. Like we still have all the other stressors as everybody has going on. Like, do you have when you're coming in to work and you hit the door, are you one of those people that leaves home at home, work at work, or it takes you some time to like let everything kind of dissipate and you can be available for your employees?
That one's tough. I think more and more, I think in this generation, people are going to not have the option that you had 50 years ago, where you could walk into the office and put down your backpack or your briefcase or whatever, and you were at work and that was it. Our worlds are so intertwined now, all of us. Our schedules are more
Mhm.
flexible than ever, but we're also trying to wear more hats than ever.
Yeah.
Everyone's trying to be a part of, like I said, communities, churches, families. Like, it's all so intertwined. You've got to
Mhm.
get comfortable with that, and you've got to realize that your people are living that experience too. So as
Mhm.
leaders, we can't have these unreasonable demands. I don't ever want my people to feel they can't bring their life into work. We're doing this whole thing together, right? Like,
Yeah.
and,
Yeah.
and again, it kind of comes back to that very first conversation of understanding who they are and what their whys
Mhm.
are. We're
Mhm.
trying to be successful in all dimensions of life together, including work.
Mhm.
So you've got to be okay with that, and you've got to let your people be okay with that, and just take on the whole mess,
Yeah.
and stop
Yeah.
trying to put it in clean buckets, you know?
Yeah. 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 Okay. Yeah. Okay. So compartmentalizing is not necessarily the way of the world, the way of leadership, especially as a practice owner or whatnot.
I
Um.
think it's tough,
Okay.
man. I think
Yeah.
it's tough. And don't get me wrong, you got to get in your lane and drive fast at times, right?
Mm.
Like, you
Mhm.
you
Mhm.
want you want to be able to be in that mode where this is front and center, we're attacking
Yep.
a specific goal, we're getting it done, and other things aren't distracting us. But it
Mhm.
needs to be tempered by some reality that things are going to work in, and it's going to happen to everybody. And I think having some patience, openness, and empathy for that's important.
Okay. Okay. So everybody, again, listening, and just being available. Now, okay. So this is just something that I'm thinking of right now. It's like, because you start building these relationships with your employees, right? It's like, okay, you become close friends, and do you run into that there's that line of like that friendship, like leadership, employee, good friends? Like, how do you manage that? Because we are creatures of social networking and
Mm.
social relationships. Like, you get that lines. Like, how do you know when you're overstepping that leadership line and you're not withholding your end of the bargain as a leader, and because you're a super close friend with them, or you develop this friendship with this individual, right? Because you're
Yeah,
spending
yeah, yeah.
8 hours a day, 10 hours a day for 5 days a week, like, right? You're going to build some friendship there. So
Yep.
how do you balance that? How do you maintain that leadership when you're also like, let's go get a beer after work or something like that?
Yeah, yeah. Great question. You're not going to believe this, but it goes back to the first conversation with that employee again,
Oh
right?
no, the first one.
Here's why I say that.
Yeah.
If on that conversation you understand, let's say this individual's got a spouse, a partner at home, and a couple of kids, and they tell you right out the gates, that relationship, I think I want to be spending this amount of time and moving and hitting these goals with on my family side of life. Well, now when you're checking in with them, and you're like, hey, you've been here all the time. You've been going out a lot with the crew. Hey, are you keeping up on that side of your life that you said was so important? I think right
Hmm.
there, just making sure that people are making good on their other responsibilities is probably going to be the best thing to mitigate any
Hmm.
overinvestment in any given area. And again, it
Good.
goes back to understanding what their goals are.
Hmm. 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 So, okay, so you have however many clinics, right, throughout the country or whatnot. I'm sure you pop in to every single one or a few here and there.
Yep.
Do you have like a pamphlet or like a Excel sheet or whatever, like their individual goals to remember? It's like, because you're not with them all the time. So kind of how do you remember what their goals in, or is that something? Okay, we have this 6 week checkup. Let's take a look at what you said in that first meeting. Okay, we're going to circle back to that every 6 weeks.
Mm. Yeah, that's awesome. So what saves us here is Slack. So we
Oh,
we
yep.
we use Slack. I mean, I'm sure everyone else has some sort of a communication platform like that they're using,
Hmm.
but we use Slack. Over on the ICE side, we have the app, so we can all
Hmm.
talk over there. We have all of our groups, but we use Slack on the onward side. And what a great way to be touching base, little touch points all the time, right? So
Hmm.
like, we've got a Slack channel for every single clinic, and we have
Hmm.
one big Slack channel for everybody. So
Yep.
we've got this great combination of little touch points kind of in the public forums, but being able to jump into these private clinic groups. Hey, we're seeing this. How's this going? This really regular communication on top
Hmm.
of, like you said, getting to every clinic every year, every 2 years, physically being there in person probably pales in comparison to the amount of regular touch points these virtual platforms allow. Anybody
Yeah.
looking to build a team, I cannot encourage you enough to get some sort of platform that you like. I don't know if Facebook still has Workplace, but that was a great one. Slack is very popular. And then, again, if you can develop your own app, somewhere where you can just, because we don't bump into each other at the water cooler anymore in a lot of cases. Like
Hmm.
my
Yeah.
my,
Yeah.
my staff's all over the country. So you got to
Hmm.
develop somewhere that you can have quick touch points and make sure you're keeping a pulse on things.
Gotcha. Gotcha. Yeah. That's smart, especially with multiple locations and managing a lot of different personalities and stuff like that. Yeah. Yeah. That makes a lot of sense. Um, how do you get your team to see themselves as part of the practice's growth?
Be transparent. I know it's
Yeah.
uncomfortable, crew, but be transparent, especially if you're in a group that's under 20 or 30 people, that's pretty doable. And
Hmm.
every make it regular where every month, and monthly tends to work out really well, right? First whatever of the month, first Tuesday of the month,
Hmm.
quick lunchtime meeting, you call in lunch and you share the numbers. And everyone, you're going to look up there sometimes and be like, "Oh gosh, I underperformed," But if you
Yeah.
share everybody's numbers, here's how we're all
Hmm.
doing. It's like,
Yeah.
it's not just that you're a part of the growth, dude, you are the growth. Like you're the
Hmm.
whole machine. And
Yep.
so
Yep.
being
Yep.
willing to put that up there and be like, look, if these things go down, we go down. And just
Hmm.
being open and really transparent about those conversations, I think is
Yeah.
critical.
Okay. Yeah. No, absolutely. Have yet to have like one of those conversations about, let's throw all the numbers up on the board, yada yada yada.
Yep.
Um, I've yet to have that type of conversation, but we're small, but hopefully here soon we can continue to flourish and grow and
Yeah.
um, get to that point to have those uncomfortable, transparent conversations.
And David, a lot of times what happens is like there's good reasons for it. Like
Hmm.
you put everybody's numbers up there, and I'm not trying to. We're all supporting
Embarrassment.
each other.
Yeah.
But then if someone's numbers are low, they'll often speak to it, and be like,
Hmm.
"Oh, here's what happened," or "Team, I can't get into this," and then someone else is like, "Ooh, I've got a warm lead there. I'll hook you up," and all of a sudden.
Yeah.
You're
Yeah.
you're seeing this person who, for whatever
Hmm.
reason, was bumping into some obstacles, just got lifted over them, kind of strength of
Yeah.
size flexed.
Gotcha. Gotcha. Yeah. No. Great point. Great point. Um, so we've talked a lot about communication. We've talked about listening. How how can practice owners improve their communication with their teams? Like I know we mentioned the meetings, we mentioned over communicating. But what if you're a leader who's introverted? What if you're a leader who hates controversy? What if you're like right? What are you a leader who's like you're always trying to be the people pleaser as well? Like what are some effective communication skills or books or podcasts or advice that you may have for leaders?
So I'll again say it's modeling above all else.
Hmm.
So let the group know that you're open to constructive feedback. That includes to you, right?
Hmm.
In the way you respond to it.
Hmm.
That's what's going to improve your group's communication the best is if when you're challenged, hey, why did we do this, or whatever concern somebody has, and then you say, gosh, that's a great question, here was my rationale, but I see where you're coming from, what would you have done? All of a sudden you show that your gloves are down, right? That you want that constructive feedback, that you're
Hmm.
willing to look at a different way of doing things. If you can model a really open response to challenging feedback, everybody on the group, you're going to normalize constructive criticism. And if you can
Hmm.
do that, dude, if you can normalize constructive criticism, you can
Yeah.
build an empire. Like
Hmm.
if you can make it normal and non-threatening when people
Yeah.
give each other feedback or you feedback, the sky's the limit because
Hmm.
you're about to have the iron sharpens iron phenomenon where if people are looking to be challenged and looking for people better than them to improve them. I mean, David, as you know, in other organizations, that those are the teams that go all the way to the top. So
Yep.
model that. When someone
Hmm.
challenges you, model your openness to it and your willingness to hear it and your non-defensiveness. and then it'll flourish itself from there.
Yeah, yeah, that non-defensiveness, yeah, for sure. I know when you're met with confrontation, that's like first human reaction, like, nope, hands up. All right, I got to defend. You're testing my character, testing my manhood, whatever the case may be, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. So drop the gloves, shake them off, bring it in. Just don't tell me I suck. All right, bring it
Yeah,
in.
yeah,
Right,
yeah. Give me a feedback
right.
sandwich for
Yeah,
crying out loud,
yeah,
right? But
right,
like,
right.
but give me the feedback. Like
Yeah.
as a leader, it hurts, man. When you take a chance and you find out your crew wasn't stoked about it, or they think you should be doing something different, man, it stings. But it
Yeah,
stings for them too when you give them
yeah.
feedback. If you can
Hmm.
start to turn support as the balm to the sting, because
Hmm.
you're looking out for each other, and it always comes out where you've got a better solution than went in with. That sting is temporary, but the changes for the better last for the long
Yeah.
haul.
Yeah, and I love that you mentioned iron sharpen iron because that is legitimately what we wore on our shirts, our workout shirts when we won
Hell
the Super
yeah.
Bowl. And so it's so crazy. Yeah. So I mean, it works in the locker room, it works in practice, it works in life, right? Like
Yep.
you know, men's groups and all these other things, women's groups. Iron sharpens iron. Everybody's going to get better. Just be
Yep.
open, be
Yep.
willing, be approachable, right? Um, these difficult conversations we mentioned being open, being transparent. um we've all ran into a toxic team member, right? We've all ran into them at some point in time that's kind of just killing the flow of the team, or they're doing things detrimental to the team. We hear it in the leagues, like this person got cut or suspended because activities detrimental to the team. Like
Yep.
how do you handle that? How do you manage that without losing morale?
Mm. The best way to lose morale for sure is to do nothing about it. Right? The
Hmm.
the more of that kind of stuff you tolerate, the more your other high performers are going to lose enthusiasm in the mission. So
Hmm.
doing nothing is not an option, right? Because
Yeah.
if you stand around and allow that behavior, your
Hmm.
other people that are on board are not going to be for long. So
Yeah.
you got to do something. Don't sugarcoat anything.
Yeah.
It's nobody likes this stuff. But when
Mhm.
you're seeing something that you think might become problematic system wide, organization wide, be transparent. But I will add this: make sure you're curious. I can't emphasize this enough, right? You're only seeing one point of view when you're watching this person be quote unquote toxic. So make sure the first time you engage them, don't sugarcoat the fact you're concerned. Hey, I've been seeing you do this, that, and the other. I'm not loving it. I don't think it's moving our organization in the right direction. But what's up? Is there a reason you're doing it? Is there something
Mhm.
I haven't seen? Make sure you approach your feedback with curiosity.
Okay.
Give them a chance to explain because they might say something when you're like, oh, dude, I didn't think about that. Like,
Mhm.
okay, that explains a bit why you went this direction. That being
Mhm.
said, once you're clear, once you're curious, and once you're acting, if they don't change quickly, we always say hire slow and fire fast. If
Mhm.
you gave them a clear chance, look, I didn't pull any punches. I told you I was concerned. I told you why I was concerned. You didn't have a good reason, right? And then you
Yeah.
didn't change your behavior. It
Yeah.
shouldn't be three strikes out. It should be two at best because that
Yeah.
person's got to move on. And it just ripped the band aid off. That old adage of hire slow and fire fast has a
Mhm.
lot of value for organizations because keeping those folks hanging around really does hurt the team.
Hire slow. Find that 90%, right? The 90% and the 10% modifiable. Hire them slow, and fire quickly.
Yep.
I like that. Now, when you have these solutions agreed upon, right? Y'all came up with a game plan. You asked your questions. You're curious. Y'all come up with a solution.
Yeah.
You mentioned time. I guess how much time do you give them, and then how do you ensure that these solutions have been implemented, and followed through by the team members? Are we increasing our meeting time? Like instead of 6 weeks, I'm meeting you at 3, or we're doing a weekly check-in depending on how severe it is. Like
Yeah.
what's kind of the norm in that regard?
Boy, there's a lot of good stuff in that question because the idea of when you have that conversation, there has to be a decision about what success looks like moving forward.
Hmm.
If you improve on this, how are we both going to agree that you improved?
Hmm.
Now, I think in many cases that has to be collaborative, right? What does
Yeah.
success look like? And maybe that's
Hmm.
increased visits. Maybe that is another organization agreeing the way you went about a certain approach softened or improved, whatever. As long
Hmm.
as you agree, here's my concern, here's what success would look like. And then I will often put the timeline on them. How long do you feel like you need to be able to kind of reverse course, adjust? I think the autonomy and correction is very important, right? As opposed to me saying, I want to see this done in 2 weeks. I think it's very human to say, hey, with everything we learned here, how long do you feel like you need to be able to really get this boat back in between the buoys? And now, once
Yeah.
they say 6 weeks, it's 6 weeks, right? On
Okay.
on the
Okay.
day, on the
Okay.
day we are going to follow back up. Hey, we now know what success was supposed to look like. You chose
Hmm.
the time frame, so don't tell me
Hmm.
I didn't give you enough time. You told me how long it was going to take. Now
Yeah.
here we are. Did we get the job done? But it's got to be clean like that. We both
Hmm.
agree with the path, we agree with the goal, and we agree on the time domain. Because then once we meet again, if things aren't better, you're probably moving on. So
Yeah.
we need to make sure that we really set things up where that decision becomes defensible.
Man, I didn't even think about the fact that success should be collaborative in that sense, right? It's like I'm okay as a leader. It's my way or the highway. You've been effing up, right? It's my way or the highway.
Yeah.
No, but in actuality, it's like okay, what's your goals? Okay, you're here, I'm here. Let's try to meet in the middle, maybe more so towards my end, but let's
Yep.
try to meet there. What's our timeline? So I do love that. I love that even those hard conversations are still collaborative. You're still listening. You're still taking everything in as far as what they said at the very beginning when you hired them, what they've had going on until they became toxic, and then after that conversation, you're kind of taking them all in. It's like let's formulate a plan, and then if you F up again, deuces. Right,
Deuces.
right,
Don't tell me
yeah,
I didn't tell you, right? We had the
yeah, right,
conversation. Yeah.
right. Do you now? I guess do you have them sign some type of contract in that sense, right? It's like, do you have them sign like, okay, you said 6 weeks, we're going to have this thing cleaned up, be the goal, like, right? Because sometimes putting it
Yeah.
on paper versus something just floating around in the ear,
Yeah.
yeah. Do you
Yeah.
have ever do something like that?
You want to make sure that's down somewhere, right? Not so
Mm-hmm.
much if you have independent contractors, but if you've got
Mm-hmm.
W-2 employees and you've got,
Yeah.
things that are a little more robust from that perspective, you're going to want to shoot that follow-up email. Plus, it's not just for record keeping. I want to shoot
Mm-hmm.
the follow-up email to make sure, hey, here's what I think I heard this morning, right? This was the issue. This is what we agreed upon as a solution. This is what we
Mm-hmm.
think is the right amount of time. I want to make sure one more time, this is what I think I heard, correct? And now by
Mm-hmm.
sending that email, they can respond back, yeah, totally. I'm pumped about the plan. Sorry about whatever. Like, here we go. Great. Now I've
Yeah.
double confirmed that we agree and we've got it down in writing kind of what was said and what we're trying to hit for a new
Yeah.
benchmark.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Absolutely. Absolutely. Now, I just looked in the chat real quick because Tamara said
Oh,
something.
yeah.
As far as leaderships and stuff, being a sole proprietor, I mean, even as a business owner, right? You're still looking to be a leader in your community. You're still meeting with different leaders, like you're
Definitely.
still developing partnerships, stuff of that nature. So you're still leading, maybe not a team within in itself, but you're still leading and trying to be a charge and a source and a powerhouse in your respective community. I feel like a lot of these principles not just apply to in-house, but apply to out there in the community. Would you agree?
Oh, David, one of the big things I start a lot of these talks off with is everybody's leading something. Man, if
Mm-hmm.
you're not,
Mm-hmm.
I'm concerned about purpose and mental health because we're built. That doesn't mean, like you said, you don't got to always be the rah rah person or this or that. But you need to have something that you're taking ownership in, whether it's your gym community. I coach the varsity tennis team here at school.
Mm-hmm.
That's a big deal to me, right? Like I
Mm-hmm.
care about those girls and their performance on top of the other. But man, in your church, in your family, in your gym, there is somewhere in your world where your energy and your leadership is manufacturing something beautiful. And you should
Hmm.
take that seriously because that's what we're here
Hmm.
to do.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah. I don't think we're just pigeonholed into a leadership just within our
No.
business, right? Like if you're a father, you're a mother, you're a leader at home, leader in your community, your church, all these places that you
Yeah.
mentioned, there's all these things are tidbits that you can also use just in community, just in everyday life. It's not isolated to just, our business.
Yeah.
Um, so Tamara, I hope you pull something from this in that regard. Um, uh, just I see Jeff emphasized the question: what can we do to reengage our staff if we miss nailing it in that first conversation?
Dude,
And
great
I've missed it
question.
twice. I've
Yeah.
missed it twice with my two
Col-
hires. So
Colby, I love it, man. So first of all, let me be real honest here that I'm not out here crushing every one of these first conversations, right? These are principles, not realities. We're trying to, but things are busy and pretty soon you're further down the road than you realize. This is life. This is life. Get a hold of that person though and let them
Mhm,
know the gravity of your thoughts. Meaning, hey, looking back at when we onboarded, I don't feel like I got nearly a clear enough understanding about all of your goals within and outside the company. And I feel like it's going to hamstring my ability to really lead you effectively. I want to go to dinner. I want to carve out an hour or two. And I really want to correct that. I want to really figure out deep down what's going on, how I can best serve you. And I know I need it because a few things have happened in the past few weeks where I felt like I wasn't sure what to do, and it comes from a lack of clarity and understanding. Can I have an
mhm,
opportunity to change that? That's what you do. And then you carve out a big
mhm.
time block and you take that time block seriously.
Nice, nice, nice. And I like that dinner, because I was reading through your Instagram, stalking a little bit. There was something where the leader can never be too busy for their employees. Yeah, I believe you had a leader can never be too busy, and I'm like,
David, David, this has
shoot,
been
some
my
of my
most, this is my recent soapbox, man.
yeah, yeah.
And then my buddy John responded with the best quote. It was better than my entire episode. He
Hmm.
responded, he said, the best ability is availability. And I
Hmm.
was like, oh, that cuts. Because leaders
Yep.
are so talented as people in so many cases. They have such a hard time saying no because they're so damn good at all the things they do. But they
Hmm.
fail to realize if they aren't available for their people, all they're doing is a bunch of tasks well. They aren't leading anything because they
Hmm.
aren't available. You've
Yep.
got to start looking at your life and creating bandwidth where you can be malleable for the people's needs around you because that's your job now. Your job
Hmm.
isn't doing well at all these tasks, it's taking
Yeah.
care of these people. And that's a
Yeah.
tough one, David. It's a tough one.
Yep. Yep. Good Lord. Yeah, that's tough. I was like, I saw that last night. I was like, shit. Oh my God. Like, I'm way too busy. And I'm like, but it's like we're in healthcare, right? And we want to help everybody and we want to
Yeah,
make ourselves more available for them. But in that same breath, like we have to take care of who's in house and who we're hanging out with for 8 hours a day and who we're seeing. And we gotta make sure they're happy and successful and make sure they're moving the needle forward because our needle is going to move forward.
yep. And you got to be able to react quick, right? Like
Hmm.
if people hit you up and they've got an urgent issue, you can't be saying as a serious leader, what do you have next Thursday at 11? Dude, these
Hmm.
people need your time. So
Yeah.
you've got to be able to say, hey, look, I've got a gap at 1. Pop back in here. We got to figure this out. Like you
Yeah.
need your speed of reaction is as
Hmm.
important as the quality of it. And if
Yeah.
you're so busy that you can't create space to really hear somebody well and make a good plan, you're not doing your job. And I know that's so hard to hear, but
Yeah.
these really high performance, high octane people need to calculate their schedule more so than
Hmm.
just let it get filled up with everything that they're busy with, you know?
Yep. Yep. That's what I've been
Yeah.
doing this year. Has been letting it get full. And it's like I
Eh,
feel like yeah, I'm definitely
yeah,
neglecting sometimes. So
I hear you.
yeah. Thanks for the hard conversation.
Oh, dude,
Sheesh.
a lot of comes from all the mistakes,
Right.
man. It
Right.
just comes from all the
Right. Right.
mistakes.
Right. Mistakes are our best teacher.
That's it.
Success is cool. Success is great. Don't get me wrong, but to get to success, it's just full of failures.
That's it.
Life is
Building
just
on them.
full of failures the whole way. Yep.
Yep.
Yep. Ashlyn, the best way to deal with when you have joint leadership, and you have different leadership styles.
Okay.
How do you handle that?
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. All right. So Ashlyn, I gotta tease that question out a little bit. Different leadership styles is totally fine. Different leadership visions is not okay. That will not work. If you've got different leaders in your company that are trying to bring the organization towards different end games, that's not viable. But I don't think that's what you're saying. I think you're saying you're on the same page, but the way you go about it is different. The most important thing here is really identifying who's going to do what. That'll really help. Look at those
Delegation.
different leadership styles and say who's going to be responsible for which of our company's goals, fostering which of our pillars, because now you're not bumping into each other and people know who to look for what, and you're not getting mixed messages. So if you have different styles, make sure you have different spaces for that leadership. That's the key.
Now, to piggyback on that, do y'all do a leadership check-in? Like, so now is that a little bit more frequent than your 6 week with your employees?
Man, I mean, as your leadership gets tiered, like as you start getting a lot of people, your close circle of 3 or 4 folks, and a lot of times the companies are built more circular. We always think about companies like this, but that's not really how it winds up working. You've got a bunch of different divisions that are synergistically doing something amazing. The people in your circle inside that greater ecosystem, you should be talking daily. And again, this is where a Slack channel, we're talking, because you have to be so lockstep with, even if you're not making the decision, why they made it. So you're ready if someone asks. And that communication, David's got to be almost ongoing.
Yeah, for sure. For sure. Stacy asks, how do you get your mojo back as a leader after feeling burnt out?
Don't focus on the people, focus on the vision. Don't focus on the people, focus on the purpose. The more size your organization gets, at some point, this is going to sound depressing, I swear it's not. At some point, literally your whole day is just bad news. That's all my life is now. Nobody ever comes to you to let you know everything's going great. So all I do is wake up to 25 messages of problems, right? So that can get a little bit wearing. And it can make you feel like, gosh, what are we doing? That's what you have to step away and remember. What are you doing? Right? And why has there been growth? And what's it going to look like for the people you're serving when you achieve your goal? You got to take a day and go for a walk in the mountains or wherever it is you live and just focus, not on any of the people, not on any of the problems, not on any of the mechanics. Why are you doing this again? And what's the world going to look like when you achieve success? Spend a full day meditating on that. And I think more than anything, that brings you back to, dude, that's why I'm letting myself get stretched like this. That's why I'm willing to go through it, because that goal matters.
Yeah. No, that's powerful. That's powerful and depressing at the same time. No, but in all seriousness, like bad news, but
all day.
You're a leader for a reason.
Dude.
Right? You're the leader for a reason. Like you're the one who ultimately has to problem solve. You have essentially the final say. Like your decisions can make or break your day, the week, the month, the company. Right?
Yes.
So,
yes. Dude, you gotta learn to be honored by people's problems. That they're bringing it to you, that they feel safe bringing it to you, that they think that you'll be effective. Like that's a massive compliment that you've gotten wherever you've gotten. And, dude, a huge compliment. 100%. And you have the ability to make it better. Like this is where the real action lives.
Right. Why is it so bad to think that people are coming to you to solve a problem? Right. Because I do this like for my kids. Like I want them to come to me when they have problems. My oldest, 19, like I know you're in college. I still want you to be able to come to me when you have a problem. Like I am always going to help you solve your issue. Why can't we have a familial?
I don't know why I never thought about. That's it. That's exactly it. As a parent, that just rings so clear. My son's 18. You don't see him as often. They're busy, you know.
Yeah.
I love when they come to me for a problem. Oh, David,
Yep.
that
Yep.
I'm going to use that for
Yep.
the rest of my career.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure.
Mm.
For sure. Is there any more questions in the chat? I don't see any more. But I guess I have one final question
Yeah.
before we jump off. How do you celebrate those wins? How do you celebrate the wins?
Publicly. Publicly.
Publicly?
You
Love
know
it.
what I mean? Like,
Hmm.
I'm just thinking, just the other day, one of our owners, our onward owners in Kansas City, one of his crew was just able to quit his job that he was getting burned out on because he grew so much inside onward. So right away, I saw the owner of Kansas City post in the group like, "Hey, shout out to this cat for crushing this and making a huge." Everyone gets all riled up. You know
Yeah.
what a great feel. Dude,
Hmm.
celebrate put people out there and be like, I'm shouting
Absolutely.
this person out, like that. You keep that energy just feeds off itself.
Oh, 100%. 100%. Everybody, we all love acknowledgement. We all
Oh,
love the good stuff. Like, yeah, let it be public. Let it be public.
yes.
For sure. For sure. No, that's great. I love it. Doesn't matter, through Slack, through a email web blast, through a newsletter, whatever the case may be. Have it on the door. Like, huge shout out to such and such for crushing in these goals or putting reviews.
Yes.
Yep, whatever the
Dude,
case is.
I don't think people want a token gift. That's what you see in
Hmm.
corporate America all the time. I don't
Hmm.
want a token gift or something
Yeah.
a Target gift card. I want you want to be acknowledged for your hard work and
Hmm.
you want to
Hmm.
share that with other people. So I think just doing that, number one, it's free outside of time. And what a great
Yeah.
spot to put your time, shouting out your
Yeah.
people, you know?
Right. 100%. 100%. Well, everybody, no, thank you all for joining us. Jeff, thank you very much, man, for the
Oh,
conversation. Uh, Man, for sharing so much wisdom, so many hot points, things that I have to go back and reflect on myself. Like, I feel like every podcast episode, there's a little bit more that I can grow myself and grow my practice. And this was huge. I know leadership has definitely been something that I've been catapulted in multiple times throughout my life, and I'm still learning, and like when I if I ever feel like I need to stop learning, then that's when I need to step away. Um, so leadership has not just been in class and school. It's an important way to build our practice. It's an important way to thrive. And I just want to pass it on to Jeff. Jeff has an announcement for you all.
yeah, hit us up anywhere that you want. We've got an email for those of you that are into this stuff that you're like, I'm feeling this, I want to learn more. Every Wednesday, we fire off a Hump Day Hustling email. So go to ptonice.com. You're going to find all this stuff on there or download the free Ice Physio app. That's probably even easier because everything's organized over on the left side. But that email list is free. So jump on there. We fire out whatever I think the 5 most important things are regarding the profession and leadership. We put those things in there. A lot of it's research on managing musculoskeletal stuff, but a lot of it's leadership. I think you'll love that. Our podcast covers all of this kind of stuff. So whether you're on the app and watching the daily show, or whether you download the PT on Ice podcast on Spotify or YouTube, wherever, we are rapping about this kind of stuff all the time. So feel free to jump in there, hit us up on any of those platforms. It's all free. We just want to engage. I'm going to enjoy more community and keep blowing things up.
Man, thank you. I'm definitely going to chime in on there too, for sure. And I'm gonna have to make my way up to FOCO.
Dude,
I'm gonna have to go. I'm
please,
gonna have to get
dude,
up that way.
get up here. Yeah, let's do it.
Yeah, I'll make some time in my schedule. I gotta make some time, but I'll
That's
get there.
it.
I'll
That's
get
it.
there. Man, well, thank you all. I'd love for you to join me in next month's session. Check the chat now for the registration link. I'll be meeting with Emma Jack and Ronnie Glassman to talk about turning your patients into your practice cheerleaders to drive clinic referrals. So if you're interested in learning about how other practitioners are driving growth through their patients, make sure to click that link. That's it. That's all we got for you. Thank you so very much again, Jeff. Thank you for everyone. We'll see you all next month.
Thanks for having me, David. Appreciate it.